everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week, and this is going to be the astro weather for April 20th through the 27th, 2025. As you guys know, we always focus on one particular transit while we're looking at everything else going on during the week. And this week is the week. This is the Mars-Pluto showdown. The final boss battle begins. We see Mars in Leo oppose Pluto in Aquarius for the last time. If you guys like my videos, you want to see more of them, click the bell button below, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and consider sharing with other people. Be sure to leave me a comment below in the comment section. Let me know how you're doing with the intensity and how you're looking to channel this into something positive for lasting change. All right, well, happy Sunday. She's risen, she's back. Happy Easter to those of you guys who are celebrating it. I missed you guys on Thursday. I have been down sick all week and I lost my voice. So I'm just kind of on the mend. So I appreciate your guys' comments and I'm happy to be back. Just a few reminders on the channel. I'm going to be here live on Friday. You can catch me here at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That's 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be doing live readings for the new moon in Taurus. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you can check the community tab. We always post that Friday morning, so that way you guys can reserve your reading. And I hope to see you guys there. It's going to be an intense, potent moon for change. And if you haven't seen my new moon in Taurus video, check it out. It is out for you guys if you want to see how to best work with that energy. And as a reminder, we're going to have horoscopes coming out for you guys on Tuesday. So in just a few short days, I will have the May 2025 horoscopes up for all the 12 rising signs. Thank you guys so much for your patience. I appreciate it. And if you saw my post, I said the full moon in Libra did me dirty. I've been really sick since that full moon. So anyways, on to the week ahead. If you're new here, first of all, drop me a comment below. Let me know where you're tuning in from. But we are going to go through all of the transits this week. We're going to talk about what's going on with the moon, how to navigate our week ahead, how to plan. Good time to kind of grab your chart. You can also grab a pen and paper, take some notes, or take some notes on your laptop to help plan the week. Now, like I said, we're going to feel there's going to be intensity, okay? Intensity is the name of the game. And I know you guys are like, Candice, it's been a lot since March. But this, to me, feels like the grand finale. And in a million different ways. We've got Mercury leaving shadow. We have got a final Mars-Pluto opposition. We've got a very intense T-square with the new moon. So the end of April is really when we are kind of going through the thick of it. And then we're getting into May. And you guys are going to feel the next couple of months, the energy is really going to shift in a very big way. But cosmic pressure cooker, okay? That's the key word this week, because with the Mars-Pluto opposition, there is this building intensity towards something explosive that's going to be happening over the weekend. Now, we will also see a Venus-Saturn North Node conjunction in Pisces. There's a triple conjunction. It has really been brewing since last week, and it's going to be happening all week, but we're going to see the exact conjunction taking place in Pisces. And I feel like this is really significant because it's really weaving like themes of destiny and commitment when it comes to love, money, and matters of the heart. So really important conversations are going to be taking place this week. Maybe we've been reflecting throughout the Mercury and the Venus retrograde on just exactly what we want to say, kind of getting in alignment with how we feel. Some of us are having some real tests, and some of us are passing those tests as long as we can be honest with ourselves and our feelings. Now we're going to see Mercury leave its shadow period, its post-shadow, yay. So this is great because I feel like we're getting out of the kind of chaotic communication vibes we've had over the last several weeks while Mercury was retrograde in the sign of both Aries as well as Pisces. This means that now Mercury is leaving the degrees which it started its retrograde at, which is very potent. Those degrees are conjunct the most recent solar eclipse in Aries. So expect a little bit of like a reactivation of the solar eclipse in Aries to be kind of coming up this week. Communication is going to be bold, all right? And this is also very fierce, free thinking, independent, and this is where we're putting words into action. And then finally, we're going to kind of finish off the week with the new moon in Taurus, which, I think has a lot of potential given some of the intense aspects between obviously Mars and Pluto in fixed signs. It's offering us the chance to build something really enduring against all odds. So we feel like the stakes are high, the pressure's on, And we're being asked to kind of ground down this week and figure out how we can build lasting change. Now, obviously, the major theme is going to be this Mars-Pluto opposition. So it is now within about 3 degrees, almost actually 2 degrees range by the time you guys are watching this on Sunday, the 20th. We also have the sun that's now in Taurus. So not only is the sun coming into a square with Mars where egos clash, we can get a little impatient. We can also see that there can be some drama, but we're also seeing the sun coming into a square with Pluto. So the sun going through Taurus, where it usually likes to graze, be comfortable, take its time, focus on pleasure and value, is under pressure by the two badasses of astrology, Mars and Pluto. So that is working its way into what will be the new moon all week. And that's why we're going to feel like we're kind of trapped in this T-square. Some of us kind of feel like we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't, or we're between a rock and a hard place, finding a difficult kind of path to choose. And obviously that new moon is going to be encouraging us to grow. But this is peaking on the 26th. So that'll be the exact day of the Mars-Pluto opposition. Oppositions feel like a very kind of fierce tug of war. That's what it is. It's a Saturn aspect. It does represent separation, boundaries, and limitation. Now, Mars in Leo, it is getting ready to come out of its shadow here over the next couple of weeks. However, it still is in the shadow of when it turned retrograde at the end of December of 2024. This is a placement that's about pride, ego, and self-expression. And it's making the opposition to Pluto and Aquarius, which is all about transformation, collective power, and rebellion. So the opposition is exact, really, starting from Saturday on. So we've been already kind of feeling it, and it's going to be brewing all week. This will be amplifying power struggles, control issues, and intense confrontations. If you have any placements about 0 to, let's say, 5 degrees of the fixed signs, so my Tauruses, my Leos, my Scorpios, and my Aquariuses, you guys are going to be feeling this pretty intensely. Obviously, this is something that we're kind of familiar with. We're no stranger to this opposition. It is echoing some of the same opposition that we saw right at the beginning of New Year's 2025, as well as a Mars-Pluto opposition that we saw in Cancer and Capricorn that was going on at the beginning of November of 2024. We've been seeing collectively and personally where we're kind of facing battles that are over authority, maybe identity and group dynamics. So as this plays out over the next week, I expect that there can be conflicts with those who hold power, specifically in groups, Pluto and Aquarius, communities, or also financial matters, because Pluto does deal with that, especially with the sun going into Taurus. We're going to see a lot of kind of financial pressure that's going to be going on as well out in the world. Now that Leo Mars is demanding recognition, Pluto and Aquarius is really pushing for some kind of future change. And the clash can feel very personal, but yet it's tied to bigger shifts that are going on out in society. So how to spot the conflict, right? This is something that's really important with the Mars-Pluto opposition. You can see the conflict brewing, whether it's among friends, online, in a crowd, or just out in the world. You want to watch for ego clashes, all right? I think that's really how it's kind of presented itself, especially since the beginning of this year. Mars-Pluto, it can be kind of scrappy. Pluto can be manipulative and Mars can be combative. We can see fights over leadership and tempers that can flare over status as well as creativity or collective goals. I do anticipate there can be some financial disputes or battles over shared resources that may also surface, so watch out for that. I think the best way to kind of diffuse this energy is channel this intensity into constructive transformation. Avoid the power trips or ultimatums. They're not going to work this week. You're going to see people who are going to go toe to toe, not willing to back down. Focus on collaboration rather than domination, right? Because all of the signs, they want to kind of duke it out. And I feel like the sun in Taurus can come in and it can actually diffuse some of this if we use it appropriately. We also want to reflect on what needs to change within ourselves or our environment. And I think the lessons, at least for me, from 2024 and 2025, when we saw these oppositions take place, really exposed where, we're giving our power away, or we're fighting too hard for control, or we're fighting to resist some kind of change. November highlighted more personal, I think, home and family values versus what's going on out in the world or with leadership, because it was in Capricorn and Cancer. But this time around, I feel like it's going to be more about our own personal accountability, what we are changing, our role with some of the bigger changes that are happening out in society. I'd be reviewing both November as well as January to kind of think about what happened then, to navigate this, I think, with like a sense of wisdom. Now, with that being said, I do feel like some of the other things that are going to be going on this week are going to be helpful. Some of the Venus-Saturn conjunctions, the sextile to Uranus can also kind of diffuse things if we can kind of choose peace and try to kind of keep the balance. Venus conjunct Saturn, I do feel like with that North Node connection is incredibly karmic. Like I said, it's going to be felt all week, but it's going to be exact on the 24th. So, Venus conjunct Saturn is all about this merger of love and values with structure and commitment. And it's taking place in conjunction to the North Node. So this deals with our destiny, all at 26 degrees, which is a Taurus degree, which deals with stability, groundedness, resources, self-esteem, food, money, banking. I feel like Pisces is creating like this karmic moment to really kind of solidify relationships. And we have all kind of felt like in one way or another, there has been a tipping point that's been going on in relationships. You're going to have to see where Pisces is in your chart. That's going to show you where the Venus retrograde was taking place, conjunct Saturn, where the Mercury retrograde was taking place, conjunct Saturn. Now this is direct, so it's going to be coming into conjunction for the last time as it moves forward. Can this solidify some relationships? Yes, but for some of us, it can feel like a make or break situation or where we're just like ready to kind of like wave the white flag. For some of us, this is the conclusion or completion of creative projects or potentially even some of our spiritual goals. So this conjunction is really asking for maturity and faith in building something meaningful, even if it feels heavy or kind of like difficult, really kind of like swimming against the current, I think is how a lot of this has kind of felt. That sense of being kind of held back or delayed has definitely been both the retrograde as well as Saturn. Now, the conjunction is going to be taking place at 26 degrees. So this is going to correlate with the 27th degree for the Sabian symbols, which is a harvest moon illuminating the sky. And the symbol speaks to really like reaping the rewards of past efforts, which is so appropriate if we think about retrogrades, which is like what has happened, what we have done. And now this is going to be kind of like the fruit of some of our labor or some of the effects of some of our karma, depending on how you look at it. And I also think that this is about seeing clearly under the light of, our intuition. Obviously, the moon deals with our intuition. Pisces is a water sign. It's very intuitive. And this is also about kind of embracing these cycles of completion, that something is finally coming to an end. So for this conjunction, I think for some of us, it's going to suggest that we're going to have clarity in relationships or values, perhaps like a call to really kind of commit to what aligns with our soul's path and also trusting the process despite the uncertainty. We can't see very clearly in Pisces, and this is all still coming within range of Neptune and Aries. Mercury is going to leave shadow on the 25th, and I feel like this is great because it's going to really clear some communication blocks that we've been having, especially if we've been having some of this communication, some of these issues really dating back to the beginning of March this year. So I'm expecting bold, direct conversations, newfound clarity, especially around themes from the recent Aries solar eclipse, because it is kind of crossing that degree as it leaves its shadow. For me, I see this as like confidence and self-expression surging and having an idea of just what exactly the plan is going to be, what it is we're going to do moving forward. Remember, Mercury is connected to the South Node in Virgo, so a lot of it deals with our health, habits, patterns, and changes with our schedules and our jobs. And then this new moon that we're going to talk a little bit more towards the end of the video, but very fertile, I think, with moments to plant seeds for lasting stability, communication blocks from March. We're moving through those now, so we have a better idea of just exactly where we are investing our time, our resources, our emotions, our energy. And with this pretty complicated T-square, I feel like the Taurus moon asks us to really be grounded in action and belief in what's possible, because it's highlighting the Venus-Saturn connection and building something solid. So all of that is happening in the midst of the, Mars-Pluto opposition. I see these things as the silver lining that can kind of help us move through some of this stuff. But the truth is that with like the Mars-Pluto opposition, We see tension revolving around the themes of Mars as well as Pluto, and then the signs that they're in is how they're going to be expressed. So like, on the topics of, I'll give you guys some topics and some examples. So let's talk politics, right? So some of you guys like it when I talk politics, but Mars is going to be about aggression. It's going to be about leadership. And this can be younger people. This can be celebrities. This can also be sports, stars. It can also be actors or actresses, people who are on stage, right? And then we've got Pluto, which is going to be about power and control, transformation, exposure. And this is also kind of connected to authority, right? Pluto in Aquarius does have a connection and correlation traditionally to Saturn. So it can still be about authority figures. And where there is some kind of like revolution, that's kind of building. So I think the opposition can definitely fuel struggles between leaders. I think we can definitely see that, where we're going to have some leaders that are just going to be bold and kind of like egotistical. And then we're going to see with the opposition to Pluto, there's going to be people who are into like grassroots or revolutionary movements. And there's going to be tension kind of, okay, do we do what's best for the collective, or are we following one particular like leader or person who's in charge? And where they're kind of not seeing eye to eye about how to navigate situations in the future. I do think that we can see personalities clash, especially, with collective demands for reform. And governments and institutions, they might feel like they're under pressure, and that there is going to be like some people who are going to be protesting, or people who are going to be having like activist connections. And we can also see some technological disruptions with Pluto and Aquarius. We do see authoritarian tendencies when we have, Mars in hard aspect to Pluto, which could kind of provoke some kind of rebellion. But I think that, Pluto in Aquarius is really about focusing on the future and trying to get out of the mindset that we have to kind of be at war with each other. But these two, they're going to want to spar when they're in opposition. So I do anticipate we're going to see some leaders doubling down on personal branding or theatrical displays of power, like bold speeches, controversial policies, things like that do kind of come up with this opposition. And there will probably be backlash from communities who are going to be asking for change. We're also going to see potential protests or movements advocating for social justice, tech regulation, climate action could also gain momentum this week. But there can be risk that's connecting to like confrontations between two different sides. We can also see political scandals involving corruption or misuse of power, and that can happen literally because of Pluto and Aquarius. And the Mars opposition can be that it's coming up because of some kind of personal dramas, romantic scandals, things like that. So it can be stuff that's kind of dating back to November of 2024 as well as the beginning of 2025. So watch for tensions in, in relationship to certain nations or groups where they're not seeing eye to eye. I do think the topics might also touch on AI governance as well as digital currencies and a challenge for traditional power structures. On the topic of finance, I do think that because Mars is in the sign that deals with the markets, okay? And Mars is about action and also risk. Pluto is going to be about wealth and debt. And Leo rules luxury and Aquarius rules innovation. Well, somebody was asking me about this on X. If you guys aren't following me on X, definitely follow me at BTV Astro. Somebody asked me what I thought about what was going on with the recent trade stuff with China. If you guys haven't been following this, we've got a lot of basically suppliers and producers in China for a lot of luxury brands who are coming out and saying, Americans are getting screwed. You're being told to buy these, $400 sandals or several $1,000 bags. We are producing them. We are producing them for pennies on the dollar. It's costing a fraction, and I mean a fraction of what you're actually paying as a consumer. It's then being shipped to Europe to kind of put their branding on it or to put the finishing touches, and then it is sold to you. So you're paying thousands of dollars for your Louis Vuitton bags. You're paying hundreds of dollars for your Gucci sandals. Guess what? They don't cost more than, probably in some cases. I saw some guy who was freaking out about paying $400 for his Gucci sandals, and he found out through the supplier that they were like, it costs like $1 to make these sandals. And people are getting pissed, and they're like, why are we buying all of this stuff? Well, Mars in opposition to Pluto, people are going to start getting angry about what they've been purchasing And the square to the incoming sun is going to be like, wait a second, I put value in this, I put stock in this. And it might actually impact how people are buying and spending, what luxury brands, right, they're consuming. It can impact stocks as well. And I think a lot of this is also the connection to Venus retrograde. Venus retrograde conjunct Saturn in Pisces, peeling back the curtain, and certain global suppliers being like, yeah, you think this thing is like really nice and like really valuable and you're paying all this money for it because it looks good or it's a certain brand. Yeah, it turns out it's hollow. Venus conjunct Saturn really wants quality. So some of these suppliers are now basically being like, your Lululemon pants, your bags, your shoes, all of your merch, everything you guys are getting from these name brands, come and buy it from us directly. So that's part of what's kind of going on this week, is I think this like realization that's like, why have we been kind of idolizing some of these brands? Anyway, the point to this is that we're going to see a continuation of the awareness of this now. And I think the financial markets can be particularly volatile this week because Mars is about speculative investments in Leo. And obviously it's really clashing with that opposition to Pluto and Aquarius, can be talking about shifts that are going on with global economies. So we can see conflicts over wealth distribution. We can see, cryptocurrency drama or regulations. Corporate power could intensify, and the opposition is going to be highlighting tensions between personal gain, Mars and Leo, as well as collective resources, Pluto and Aquarius, potentially triggering also disputes over taxes, shared assets, as well as financial reforms. So watch for those stock market swings. They could be driven by bold corporate moves or celebrity cancel culture. It could also be about celebrity endorsed ventures or, disruptions from decentralized finance or tech innovations. Power struggles over global financial systems has been the overall theme with this opposition the last few months, such as like central banking policies versus blockchain-based cryptocurrencies. Crypto has obviously been a huge theme for the last several years, but remember that Aquarius is about the future. So we've got Pluto in Aquarius, the future of wealth, at odds, Mars in Leo with young investors. And also Uranus is in Taurus too. So that's really kind of highlighting where there's major changes going on with the, money in general, innovations in money. I do think that we might hear about some kind of corporate takeover that might happen, or some kind of merger that's facing resistance from stakeholders or regulators that are pushing for new systems. Okay, so that's what I see for money. Tech stuff will likely start to kind of come up. It's already happening in the news. We're hearing stuff that's like coming out of the White House where they're talking about that they can supposedly manipulate time and space. But other things about technological advancement and also weapons and war. That's very Pluto and Aquarius. But I do think that because Aquarius is about technology and progress and Pluto is about transformation, it could also be things relating to the internet, things connecting to security, AI, all that stuff. So I do expect maybe some revolutionary advancements, or at least news coming out about that connected to AI, blockchain, or renewable energy in particular. But Mars in Leo with the opposition has this ego-driven energy that's going to lead to conflict over who controls profits from these innovations. So I'm expecting debates over tech ethics, maybe issues revolving around data privacy or AI's role in society coming up. I think we might see some tech leaders that are facing some kind of scrutiny. So that's pretty much that. And this could be things like some high-profile tech launches or product reveals can happen. Yes, we can see data breaches and issues revolving around cyber attacks that expose vulnerability to certain systems. And we might see activist groups that are targeting tech giants. So that has all kind of been a theme in the previous oppositions. Now, in terms of what's going on in terms of like culture and society, we see Leo represent the individual. Pluto is going to be in Aquarius, kind of connecting to changes going on with the collective. So we might see like cultural battles erupting between like individual stardom versus collective values, maybe some celebrity scandals or some kind of like performative activism can be taking place. Also, we're going to be seeing lots of advocating for inclusivity, or we're going to be seeing themes revolving around the entertainment industry, where there's controversies over representation, power dynamics, and creative control. So things like high profile, figures who are in the industry, whether it's film, music, or art, they might face some kind of public criticism for like ego-driven actions. Social media platforms become battlegrounds this week for, conflicts regarding people's beliefs. And I think we could see like influencers, which is very Leo, amplifying or escalating some of this tension. So don't be getting involved in some of the drama in the comment sections. A lot of it is being fueled intentionally because of stuff that's going on with current events. We will also see artistic projects tackling themes of power, identity, and technology that might gain attention. Okay. So really this is about seeing the conflict and instead of engaging with it, focusing on transformation and how to transmute some of that. The Leo Aquarius axis really suggests that this involves us to kind of step up and be a leader in a way and lead by example and be using our creativity, be kind of dancing, sharing, writing, anything to kind of show and move through that. It's also great for physical fitness. If you guys want to be doing that, that can help kind of diffuse some of this energy as well. I do think that, Pluto and Aquarius in general is really calling for collective action. But with the Mars opposition, it's basically saying it kind of gets fractured if we let our ego get in the way and we become too kind of consumed with what about me? And we start seeing that there are some internal rifts with being able to make progress. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and do the weekly breakdown. We're going to talk about the week of April 20th through the 27th. And if you guys stay tuned until the end of the video, I will take you through the 12 rising signs. I will talk about where the Mars-Pluto opposition is playing out for you and how to navigate it and where to watch for the conflict. So if you're watching on Sunday, April 20th, happy Sunday to my Sunday crew. I hope you guys are well. Happy Easter to those of you guys who are celebrating. If you guys saw my video last week, I was like, this is the Easter from hell. Trying to get as much done in the morning as possible is recommended because the later we get into the evening, the more we are going to feel the tension. And truth be told, the heat is on Sunday night on. With the moon moving into Aquarius later this evening, coming into conjunction with Pluto, squaring the sun, opposing Mars, woof, that is going to be highlighting the opposition that we're going to be dealing with all week. So the moon, sorry, the moon is in Capricorn, but the week kicks off on Sunday with the moon in Capricorn. And positives is that it's going to be making a trine to Uranus and Taurus. So this is great for innovation. Maybe you're doing something different in how you're gardening, cooking, spending money, investing. Maybe you're wearing something different, But the moon in Capricorn is about emotional labor and emotional work. So the mood can feel a little heavy with the moon in Capricorn. The positive is that while it's here, we're looking at Saturn because Saturn rules Capricorn and Venus is meeting with Saturn. So there can be like the sense of seriousness, commitment, tradition, major positive shifts that are going on when it comes to love and money and like really showing up for other people, even if it means we have to make a sacrifice. So there's nice aspects between the moon and Saturn, nice aspects between the moon and Venus, which does make it a little bit more social. And we also see that Saturn is still slightly in a sextile to Uranus and Taurus. So you guys have heard me refer to the Pisces stellium as like the vision, the blueprints, the plan, the dreams, the meditation, the vision board. Whenever we see stuff sextiling Taurus, it basically means we have to manifest it, bring it down into our reality before we can actually see, feel, and produce the change. So nice reflective day. I definitely feel like it can be great also for major like art and creative things. So if you're crafting today, or if you're writing, or if you're painting or anything like that, maybe you're going to be spending time by water, can be a lovely day with that sextile. Now, I feel like the day starts very productive with some of these aspects, but as the moon gets into Aquarius, things start to get a little intense. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. All right, so we're going to catch that trine. It looks like kind of late morning. I'm Central Time, so about late morning, the moon will trine Uranus. Could be a change of plans. And then we're going to see by the end of the evening, the moon's going to go into Aquarius. and it's starting to come into conjunction with Pluto. It's also immediately facing a square to the sun. It's also immediately facing an opposition to Mars. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff that's happening all at one time. The moon shift is going to be triggering the Mars-Pluto opposition. So from Sunday night on, you're going to be like, whoa, there's the power struggles. There's the issue with group conflicts. There's some kind of eruption going on online or with friends. And it's really, like I said, it's echoing some of the themes that we saw from New Year's Day 2025, and also things we saw at the beginning of November of 2024. So get your Easter stuff done early this morning, okay? Try to be home, be chilling out. Don't be hanging out in crowds. Don't be going to places where you know that there was going to be people who are going to be protesting, or people who are going to be potentially angry or hostile or violent. Unfortunately, this is what we see with the moon in conjunction to Pluto, is that there is some kind of emotional crisis. And the opposition to Mars can mean heat, action, speed, right? Dangerous situations. So this is a trigger that I don't like, especially once it hits around 1 degree, because it means that individuals are going to be acting out. Moon square the sun. If plans are going according to plan, right? The moon in Aquarius wants to be independent, do its own thing. Sun in Taurus wants to hang out and chill. And there's something very disjointed about what's going on with the group dynamic and values or beliefs or money versus what's going on with us personally. So my recommendation is be home on Sunday night. Maybe this is a good time to be taking a step back, not reacting to things, not being impulsive, not jumping on the bandwagon. I find that can happen a lot with moon conjunct Pluto. We see something that erupts in the world and everybody gets really intense about their emotions and their feelings. And immediately it's like, boom, okay, I'm picking a side. I'm getting I'm getting in alignment with that particular cause. But doing this time around, whether you're doing it online or you're doing it in person, is going to have some potentially dangerous repercussions. You are going to see people who are going to be combative, confrontational, and people who are going to be willing to say what's on their mind now that we see Mercury and Aries. So yeah, a good time to kind of just stay home, maybe reflect on authority. You can observe what's going on, but I would say observe, don't necessarily put yourself in the line of fire. Focus on shared goals and avoid any financial disputes. Now, this is Sunday, okay? So knowing that the moon's going to come into conjunction with Pluto, people kind of feel like, oh, there's a crisis going on. How does that impact the markets? Opposition to Mars and Leo, and also the square to the sun. So some people are speculating, I've seen some people speculating, oh, we're going to see a pop this week, right? We're going to see something kind of grow. Look, Venus is direct now. So I do think that with the sun in Taurus, it means that we need to see something actually grow. We need to see some kind of value. We need to see wealth. We need to see security. It's hard really because you see all of these oppositions and squares happening at the same time. If it were just like the moon conjunct Pluto in opposition to Mars, it could mean that there is some kind of, news that's coming out about some financial shift that's about to happen, or what's going to take place with a certain brand or with a stock. And people are going to be willing to say, hey, you know what? I don't want to take the risk. But it's complex because it's not just the opposition. The moon is there, it's squaring the sun. And it is saying that the sun wants us to focus on what's real, what's tangible, like what can we have that is solid, that is valuable. So you're going to hear lots more talking about property, real estate. I think you're going to hear more talking also about agricultural things. We're going to hear more about gold, silver, hard assets is very kind of Taurus as well. And obviously, nothing's really going on with Uranus other than the Venus-Saturn sextile. So thankfully, anything wild that can happen does feel like it is being supported. It does not necessarily feel like the bottom is falling out. But I think all week we're going to see lots of turbulence. I think it's going to be hard to kind of hit which way it's going to go, because when you see these fixed squares, it's a very extreme swing. And this is the finale of like the Venus retrograde. So now we're going to see where we stand now that there's been all of these kind of financial changes over the last couple of weeks. All right, so this is going to take us obviously into what will be Monday the 21st. So overnight, you will see the moon oppose Mars and square the sun. So that's going to be around 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. So things are intense. If you're doing a Sunday dinner, you've been forewarned. Moon's going to cross Pluto overnight, and then we're going to wake up in the morning on the 21st, which is Monday. Now, Moon's still in Aquarius, all right? So we're still focusing on group dynamics, future goals, friends, socializing. We are going to see that the Moon will sextile Mercury Monday morning. Good for communication. Don't have a problem with that. I feel like this can be great for connecting with the right people, networking, making plans with friends, that kind of stuff. So communication is going to get a little bit easier. We will see the Venus North Node Saturn connection now start to kind of build around 26 degrees. So if you have anything around 25, 26, 27 degrees of Pisces, Sun, Moon, rising, personal planet, pay attention. Something is going on there where you're needing to commit to something, or you're needing to really solidify something, or make sure that it's really what you want, or maybe exercise some kind of new boundary with someone or something. I feel like the triple conjunction, like I said, it's bringing serious conversations about love, duty, or destiny. And the North Node is ruled by Jupiter, which is direct now in Gemini, and it's at a 19. So a lot of this is about communicating and talking about our relationships, what we've been thinking, feeling, what's been going on behind the scenes. Yes, it's in a slight square, but I think it's still a little wide. So it can mean that we can improve relationships through communication and kind of keeping an open mind. However, I do think that, Mercury's sextile to Pluto is very potent. It can be a time where we're a little bit more clear and a little bit more assertive with our communication. So be mindful of that people are going to be feeling a little bit more outspoken, I think, with some of these transits. Now, something else that we're going to be seeing on this day is now the sun, and it's mostly earlier in the morning, but the sun is square Mars, and you're kind of feeling that kind of the Sunday night going into Monday morning. Sun does focus on our ego. It can also be talking about our energy, our focus, the area of our life where we're going to be a little bit more busy. And it's kind of in conflict with what's going on emotionally or with the collective, and also with Mars. So, Moon Pluto has a superior square on the sun, and this is coming into what's going to be a new moon phase. So this is dismantling. It's saying that there are things that are coming up collectively where there's some kind of crisis, and it's like, oh my God, what kind of an impact is that going to have on banks, liquidity, bonds, anything in regards to like physical finance, Taurus. And then we've got the sun coming into a square with Mars, where it's saying it's pushing for more risk, more speculation, right? More, I think, volatility as well. And you've got this kind of like old system versus new system situation that's kind of going down, I think, with some of the squares. So not a day that we want to maybe push others. You might feel very fixed in your beliefs or about your values or about, how you want to spend your money or what you deem valuable or what you're collecting or buying or selling. But I'm going to tell you, not everybody is going to agree. You're going to see fireworks over lots of conversations revolving around who should be owning or possessing what. I do think that with that Sabian symbol, the harvest moon coming up, I think that really now is a time to say, okay, let's take a step back. Let's really focus on what our long-term vision is. What do we want in the long term? We get too kind of wrapped up in the drama of what's going on in the moment, but let's look at the bigger picture. Does there need to be some things that are kind of breaking down and correcting right now? So in the long term, we can have long-term security, stability, freedom, and wealth, Venus conjunct Saturn. So we know that if we're investing in things that are going to be valuable in the long term, and whether that's making investments in ourselves, making investments financially, where we're investing our time, we want to be thinking about that long-term vision, because some of these squares are just temporary things. They're going to be playing out over this next week, but there can be long-term repercussions. No risk, no reward, I think, with some of these squares, and also no crying in the casino, as Trump has said. I think that's hilarious. Mars in Leo is very much about actions and risk and gambling and casinos. And I think that with some of the squares, people are getting freaked out and they're getting chased out, when in reality, there's going to be some really good opportunities for people to go, no, I see the long-term vision of what this can be, 6 to 12 months down the road. I'd be saying if everybody, and this is like just, I guess, like investing advice in general, what you've heard the expression, when there's like people that are saying, oh, this is amazing, everything's going up, it's time to get out. But when people are like, oh my God, there's blood in the streets, like that's the time to kind of like buy in. And like normal people, I don't think like realize that. So there can definitely be some pumps, but there can also be some major brakes that are being thrown on things this week. So I'm curious to see which way it goes, to be honest with you, because to me, I think Venus conjunct Saturn is some people are sitting out and they're still waiting because they know that there's still going to be opportunities to buy in. That's the feeling that I'm getting. And you don't have to take my advice. Look at Warren Buffett. Look what he's doing. He's sitting on like a massive pile of cash right now because I think he knows that there's still going to be some correction. Anyway, so let's go on for the rest of the day. We're going to watch now that there will be a trine to Jupiter, which I think is going to be pretty good for traveling, communication, contracts, things like that, kind of happening in the evening. So you could find that there is better communication that's happening. We are also going to see the moon that is going to start kind of creeping up to a sextile with Chiron, but I think that's going to be like later going into the next day. So I feel like on Monday, with Uranus not being aspected by anything other than Saturn or Venus, really good intuition day. Define what it is that you're willing to commit to. Listen to your intuition. Take some time to kind of pause and reflect. Take a deep breath after what was happening on Sunday going into Monday, and try not to kind of get swept up in what's going on with the crowd. Trust your intuition. That's the best advice that I can give you. So then the moon is going to continue through Aquarius overnight, and this is going to go to Tuesday, the 22nd. And we're going to see in the morning, the moon is still slightly in a trine to Jupiter. So I would say Tuesday morning is still a good communication and travel day as well. The only thing that we're going to catch on Tuesday is that even though we're really optimistic about who we can communicate with, who we can connect with, what we can get done, where we're going, we are going to see that the moon is going to hit a square to Uranus. So that does kind of feel like, to me, there's some disruption going on Tuesday, all right? Tuesday morning in particular. So we're, optimistic early in the day. We just need to be mindful. There's going to be some unexpected twists and turns with that moon square, its ruler. Stay flexible as Uranus kind of shakes things up a little bit. Also, keep in mind that we are now starting to see the sun come out of the square with Mars, so we don't feel that kind of impatience that's building. But now we're starting to see the sun come into a square with Pluto. So actions have consequences in a very big way. On Tuesday, other than that, there is the triple conjunction that is still setting up around 26 degrees. Frankly, I think a lot of this has to do with some big news about a bank, because 26 degrees deals with banking. It deals with agriculture. It's going to deal with growth, development, and all of this connecting to Jupiter tells me that there's possibly going to be some information, some news, or some leaks regarding some of those things that are going to be kind of on the news or making headlines. Maybe there is some kind of preparation quietly behind the scenes where there is about to be new regulations. There is about to be new decisions. Could it be connecting to the Fed and whether or not we're going to hear if there's going to be a pivot or a change in direction going on with interest rates? Obviously, we've heard over this last week, there's been a call for there to be some changes at the Fed. Is that going to happen? Sun square Pluto, is there going to be somebody who comes in and says, hey, you're not king of the hill anymore, and is there going to be some pushback? I don't know. But I could see that kind of happening here. And I feel like with Venus conjunct Saturn, this is also about knowing that there is going to be some major changes that are happening behind the scenes financially that's about to become more visible, right? When Venus goes into Aries, when Saturn goes into Aries, we're going to see that it's going to be like a whole new ball game. All right, so on the 22nd, expect those twists and turns. Things are going to get shaken up a little bit, but I think the focus here throughout the day is embracing change without losing sight of your goals, because the moon's in Aquarius. It's like, no, we have to stay the path. We have to be focused on where we're going with the future. We know that this is like a dismantling moon that's kind of playing out as we're getting ready to go into the new moon. And the moon's got to cover quite a bit of territory between hitting Pluto at the start of the week, and then it's got to hit all these other planets before it comes into a new moon. There's a lot of stuff going on that needs to get cleared out. So this is now going to take us into the 23rd, which is going to be Wednesday, hump day. And we wake up, totally different vibe, moon's in Pisces. So dreamy, mystical, magical, sensitive. We are going to see that the moon is going to be making a sextile to the sun. So we might feel like things are actually kind of calming down a little bit, or they're kind of easing up in a way. When we're looking at the moon in Pisces, we're paying attention to Neptune. Neptune's still in Aries. We're also looking at Jupiter. Jupiter is still in Gemini. No real aspects going on between these planets right now. So nothing is happening quite yet. Obviously that conjunction between these triple planets are something that I'm still watching here, and the moon will have to kind of cross through these over the next 2 days. So I'm expecting some feelings. We're going to see some feelings, some emotions, some conclusions, some completions, because the moon's going to get triggered with Saturn as well as the North Node. Now, the 23rd to me feels like emotional stuff is going to be starting up on Wednesday. You'll notice that it's going to peak as the moon is actually approaching the stellium, which is going to be closer to Thursday. Now, this is also going to be the day that we see the sun in Taurus square Pluto in Aquarius, and it's at a 3. So this is communication. This is a Gemini degree. This might mean that we're weighing two different situations. Maybe we're like, do we go left or do we go right? We take this job or that job, do I say this? Do I not say this? And words have a lot of power behind them whenever we see planets squaring off at a 3. This is going to intensify the power dynamics, especially I feel like in career or public life, because obviously, the sun deals with kind of like our public life. It can be also about power struggles that we can have with authority figures, think like parents, bosses, managers, people out in the world that kind of control and dictate things. And this is when we start to see the heat getting kicked up a little bit, because this is at a 3, this is at a 3. Pretty soon, this is going to be at a 3 by the end of the week. What you want to really focus on, I think, on Wednesday is, we want to set boundaries so we are avoiding manipulation, because I feel like Sun square Pluto, we can definitely feel like somebody's pressing us, or they're trying to kind of control or dominate us. We want to lean into compassion, though, because we've got that moon going through Pisces. So it's like when you're feeling the pressure, there can be this sense of being like, nope, I'm not going to, be the person who's going to be pouring gasoline on the fire. I'm going to take a step back. I'm just going to reflect on this, and I'm going to observe. And you're going to notice some people are going to be like pouring the gasoline and striking the matches, and other people are going to be like, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm just going to be, hiding in a bush, moon and Pisces things. So I do feel like, be compassionate, be aware, but also be aware that you're not getting kind of up in the mix, because all of this Pisces is going to want peace. It's going to want diplomacy, right? Venus is there. It's going to want to say, let's be level-headed. Let's talk about, the potential long-term repercussions. Let's learn how to be diplomatic. Let's be willing to kind of forgive. And Mars, Pluto, and the sun are like, what is forgiveness? I will not do that. And that's the unfortunate thing, is that you're going to see a lot of people who are going to be very polar, opposite ends of the spectrum this particular week. So be careful which battles you guys are getting involved in. All right, so this is going to take us through the day. So we'll see the moon and the sun sextile early in the morning. We will see the sun come into, it looks like the square, and the square is going to be exact round about midday, sun at 3 and change, and Pluto at 3 and change. We will then see the moon continue to go through Pisces into the PM hours, and not much else is going to be happening. So that's kind of the end of that. And now this is going to take us into what will be the 24th. And this is where I'm telling you guys, you're going to notice just how emotional things can become. On Thursday, that moon is coming into a square with Jupiter first thing in the morning. Okay, so that basically means that we can be a little bit more emotionally overreactive. It does mean that, there can be this feeling of, okay, moon in Pisces, I'm feeling my way through things. I'm, kind of trying to wrap something up. I'm trying to process something, but it's very emotional. And, some of us don't want to let things go. I think with Venus conjunct Saturn, we don't want to say goodbye. We don't want to feel like this is the end. So it's okay to be in your feelings. I'm expecting people to feel like there is some heaviness in the air on Thursday. But it is a destined day, because the moon will be meeting with the North Node and also coming into connection with Venus and Saturn going into what will be Friday. Now, Venus, Saturn, obviously, it's cementing commitments and in love and value, but the moon's present adds, I think, this heavier kind of emotional weight. And with the square to Jupiter, it can feel like it's overwhelming, or it's hard to find the words, or it's hard to be able to communicate and kind of share. So we're going to see that happening. And I feel like, Jupiter square is just really warning against over idealizing someone or something. We have to look for those blind spots. I think the focus here on the 24th is really about like making realistic promises. I also feel like it's about building trust through action, that, we have to be really focusing on, what is real and kind of cutting through some of the fog. But also just pay attention to those emotions. So you're going to catch the square to Jupiter around the late morning. And then you're going to see by the afternoon going into the evening on Thursday, the moon is meeting with the North Node, Venus and Saturn. Now, on the other hand, right, Venus is exalted. She's direct. She loves being in Pisces. This is where artists and poets and, people who are creative or musicians really thrive. But not everybody does well in the late degrees of Pisces because it can feel like we're drowning. The moon conjunct the North Node, Venus and Saturn is great for refining something that you're working on creatively, finishing, a painting you've been working on, completing some, conversation you want to have with like a loved one. Maybe finding a way to show responsibility and commitment in relationships. Do something where you're investing in something that's meaningful. This could be great for like a movie night. This could be great for doing some manifestation, some meditation, some vision boarding. Anything that's going to be about kind of playing with the romantic side of Venus, the committed side of Saturn, and also anything that's mystical, magical, or illusions. But the other side of this, I think, unfortunately, is going to be some people going, oh my God, why am I so isolated? Why am I so alone? And really kind of feeling like disconnected or feeling grief or feeling lost. I've actually found that I've heard more people said that they've been having these feelings when we see like the moon go through Pisces the last 2 or 3 months. And I see some people talking about getting engaged or getting married or making long-term plans or having something good happening. Like, unfortunately, with the North Node, it's saying that in order for us to move forward, we have to actually wrap some things up. We have to kind of let some stuff go. For some of us, it can be stuff relating to past lives. It can be karmic stuff as well with the North Node. And obviously, planets in Pisces can be about those things that we're working through that we're not totally conscious or aware of. And where we kind of get slimed by the collective. Because when the moon goes through there, everybody's in their feelings, or they're drinking, they're drugging, they're isolating, they're kind of disassociating. And we all feel that when the moon goes through Pisces. So be mindful that that's kind of like in the air on Thursday. Now, this is leading into what will be Friday. And also watch your dreams when the moon goes through Pisces on Thursday night. Something can kind of come up there, especially like healing stuff relating to old relationships or, people from the past, or feeling like, whoa, I had a really crazy, like very vivid dream. Very common with the Pisces moon transit. And then on Friday, on the 25th, totally different vibe. We wake up and the moon's in Aries. Okay. So it's not like it's no longer in Delulu land. Like now it's moving into cardinal fire. So it's going to be more action oriented, dynamic. Make sure you're not hitting that snooze button. You guys might have actually had a late night, or you were, staying up watching Netflix, eating your snack, or, you had a little too much wine. Some of us might have a hard time getting up and getting going on Friday morning. As the moon connects with Neptune, it's like, oh my God, where did I forget to set my alarm? Or I'm like running late. So make sure you put on a couple alarms. Don't hit the snooze. And maybe get up in the morning, first thing in the morning, have a morning routine on Friday. That's something that's really helpful for Aries moon transits. I also feel like it'd be a good day to meditate, right? Do your workouts, your hot shower, whatever, before you start your day, because the moon is meeting with Neptune. Now, this is also a wonderful way to diffuse this brewing Mars-Pluto opposition, is if you lean into Neptune, Moon, Mercury. I'm in alignment with my thoughts and my actions. I've got a plan. I know what I'm doing. I know what I believe in. I have the vision. I'm taking action, right? That trine to Mars is a great diffusion. It's also in a sextile to Pluto, where you're like, nope, I'm focused on goals relating to the future. That is how you work with astrology. There can be a really gnarly opposition going on or a square or something, but if you can lean into trines and sextiles, you may not feel the intensity of that as bad. And like, I'm sorry that Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's ruled by Mars. It's inherently selfish. A lot of the fire signs are selfish because they want to do what they want to do, right? So this is a good morning to get up and be like, I am going to do what I'm going to do. I have a plan. And, if it means that I want to do something creative, or if I want to make plans to go out with my friends, if I want to go for a run, if I want to sit in the sauna, whatever, I'm going to do it. And you have to really focus on the vision for how is the weekend going to go? How do I want this to go? And what role am I going to play in what's going to be kind of happening or going down in this next couple of day period? Trust me on this. Do this on Friday. It's going to help you kind of plan ahead a little bit. So if you know that people are getting kind of weird or there's some tension, you're like, nope, I'm focusing on my reaction, how I'm going to be handling the situation, how I'm carrying myself. I feel like, with the moon in Aries and that sextile to Pluto and the trines to Mars, we can actually make magic happen. Mercury is leaving shadow this day, so we're going to feel communication get better. Yes, that was at a recent eclipse degree. And when the moon is in Aries, we're looking at Mars. So if I kind of peek ahead a little bit, the moon is going to conjunct Mercury at a 9. Okay, so this is Central Time, 5 p.m. So 3 o'clock on the Pacific Coast, 6 o'clock on the East Coast, Friday. 9 degrees is where we had that solar eclipse in Aries. Okay, and that's also where Mercury turned retrograde. That's also conjunct where Venus turned retrograde at a 10. Something is happening on Friday. Something is happening that's a faint reminder that's like, hey, what have you been working through for the last 2 months? And where has there been difficulty in expressing yourself? And where has there been some challenges? And now it's like, what are you going to do about it? Right? What are you going to do about it? What have you learned, 9 degrees of Aries? What have you learned? How have you been able to kind of like carry yourself differently? Or how can you give some kind of wisdom to other people? How can you teach through your experiences, right? It's also about global stuff, trade, import, export. 9s are connected to Sagittarius. So there might be like this epiphany or awareness that's like, wait, how is this going to be impacting individuals? Obviously, the end of April, we're coming to the end of the month after all of these rearrangements and things kind of going on with tariffs. And for a lot of people, a lot of people have been getting angry about tariffs. A lot of people don't really understand the kind of the plan when it comes to the tariffs, how that's actually going to be potentially improving the lives of some individuals, what data and information and analytics and all kinds of things are going to start showing up. And, we're going to be hearing more information about how much money has been made, how that's going to be going into the system, how that's going to be paying off debt. And Aries is about being angry. So we've seen throughout the last 2 or 3, really 2 months where a lot of individuals have been angry and also confused and not really understanding what's happening. So I'm wondering, now are we going to start to put information, are we going to see information out there that's going to be giving us hard numbers where we can really start to see how this is either helping or hindering individuals? I don't know. But Moon conjunct Mercury, there's no filter, okay? There will be no filter on Friday when it comes to our thoughts, our feelings. We're going to feel more impulsive. And this is activating that Mars, which is now by degree in opposition to Pluto. It's hard. I mean, I feel like when the Aries moon transit happens, people are very much on defense. They're not on offense, right? That's just the nature of the beast of I think, the Aries moon. I encourage you guys to take a step back and not be so impulsive and think about what you've learned over the last 2 months and maybe where you got yourself into some trouble because you said something too soon before you were informed, or you got angry and your emotions got the best of you. Like something happened, right, in the area of Aries in your chart. This is going to come back up again on Friday. Obviously, I think that this is about the Mars-Pluto tension being very palpable, right? It's in the air, but it's really in the air now that the moon is in Aries. It's also really in the air Sunday, if you guys are watching this on the 20th. This is about speaking your truth, but really avoiding unnecessary fights. Yes, there can be drama, but there can also be breakthroughs. So if we channel this energy into something that's creative, or we're being a leader in how we're managing or handling conflict, it can actually be very beneficial. So the moon's going to keep moving in the PM hours through Aries, lots of communication in the evening. And that is now going to be leading us into what's going to be the 26th, which will be Saturday, so April 26th. And when we wake up in the morning, the moon is still in Aries. It's not really doing too much. It is going to catch a sextile to Jupiter. So where we're out and about, daring, getting things done, we can travel, communicate, write, share, network, all of those things. But this is the day that we're going to see the Mars-Pluto opposition really starting to intensify. This is also the dark moon phase. I didn't mention that, but with the moon going through Aries, it's going through the sign right before we come into the new moon. So oftentimes, like, we're kind of cranky during that period. There is this flushing out that's going on with, it started with Sunday with the moon conjunct Pluto, and now it's going to hit Venus, Saturn, Neptune, and it's going to be about something kind of concluding and completing, and then it's going to be like, okay, what are we going to do about this as individuals? Especially because Aries is the spark, right? It initiates something before we go and we build something. So it is putting a lot of pressure on us individually to be reassessing and rethinking, well, what's going on with our finances? What can we afford? What are we buying? What do we need? Where do our values stand as we're coming into what will be this very potent new moon? So I do feel like, to me, it's kind of like this is the climax now. We're seeing the Mars-Pluto bring up some of these intense confrontations and power struggles. We can communicate and kind of talk our way through it with the sextile to Jupiter. The connection that you'll see with the moon and Chiron happening on Saturday morning is going to be kind of, stirring up some old wounds, but it does offer us the opportunity to heal if we're willing to be courageous, if we're willing to initiate, sometimes a little bit of conflict, sometimes we got to stir the pot a little bit to be able to better work through some of these issues. It is at a 23, so it's about collective wounds, identity wounds, people feeling victimized, isolated, separate from society, all that fun stuff. And the moon's going to keep moving in the PM hours. And it looks like late overnight, it's going to shift into Taurus. So on the themes of Saturday, this is where we got to be aware of where fear is coming up, wounding is coming up, where we feel personally victimized. Venus and Saturn are still dancing. And I really feel like this is about transforming our anger into some constructive change. That's really how I see this. There's no other way around it. Preparing us as we're getting ready to come into what will be Sunday. And that is going to be the 27th. And when we wake up in the morning, the moon will be in Taurus, all right? But this is, especially if you're an early riser on Sunday, you're going to feel this. So we have the Mars-Pluto opposition, which just completed, but still it's within range. Once Pluto and Mars are like around, within 2 degrees, like around the time you guys are watching this, we're already in the feeling of the opposition. You don't need to wait until Saturday for something to happen. Something can happen all week that can be triggered by it. Likely it's going to be when the moon's in Aquarius or when it's in Aries or when it's in Taurus. That's just my hot take. But the moon's going to have to square Pluto first thing in the morning, which means it's reacting to some global change or crisis or issues with friends or issues going on with society. And it's coming into the new moon. And before it does, it also has to square Mars. So I'm like, woof. 7 a.m. Central Time until about 11. Sunday morning's a little intense. And then we're going to see the new moon come in. Now, here's what's interesting, okay? The new moon's at a 7, so it's about our relationship to someone or something. You got to look at which house is the new moon in. 7s are about balance, diplomacy. It's about partnerships. It's giving us an opportunity to invest in relationships that can be very meaningful, that can be positive long-term commitments, better for our self-esteem, also better for working relationships, looking for better employers, seeking better business partners, people who we're more in alignment with, so we can create something beautiful. It's rich with the opportunity for having a healthy relationship to self, having a healthy relationship to money, bringing in people that can kind of support us and make us feel valuable. However, this is where I said, against all odds, This new moon is going to be squaring Pluto and Mars. So it's setting the stage for the immediate next month. That's like, hey, we got to get serious about what we can be doing right now, what we can be building, what we can be creating. And I do feel like, this is really about shifting to a focus on stability and new beginnings. Taurus, the moon's very comfortable here. This is also ruled by Venus, and Venus is conjunct Saturn. So that's more of that lasting, committed change, what we're willing to sacrifice now, maybe Venus, Saturn, and Pisces, in order for us to be able to move into something that can be more beneficial in the long term. Obviously, Venus, Neptune, Saturn kind of softens the edges. There's some dreaminess, there's some vision, some inspiration here. But this is a new moon that's all about planting seeds for long-term growth and believing in your ability to build something lasting against all odds. This is a new moon that's the focal point of the pressure point between Mars and Pluto, where, you're going to go, I have these dreams. I've got this creative thing that I want to do, or, I have this new hobby, or I'm excited about this new relationship, or I'm launching this new business. And then you're going to have the square to Pluto where people are going to be like, this is the worst time to do it. There's going to be like the haters, or people who are going to be jealous or envious, or situations where you're going to feel like, yeah, not everybody is on the same page right now, but I got to do it anyway. So there is this pressure with this new moon to say, you know what, against everything, even if the environment doesn't seem ideal, or even if I feel like I'm, under pressure, I'm going to do it anyway. And if you guys, I didn't show this to you in the video, but if you look at the full moon 6 months from now in Taurus, this is going to be a full moon. It'll be at 13 degrees. It's going to feature Venus at 28 degrees of Libra. So we've got the new moon where Venus is exalted in Pisces conjunct Saturn. And then the fruit is going to be Venus in Libra, which is a nice placement. Venus squares Jupiter. So like relationships and home and family dynamics can be extra sweet. Venus is at the last degree, or coming into conjunction with the last degree, so it does feel like there is a karmic tipping point in relationships. She is also simultaneously coming into a square with Pluto. So there's some intensity. I don't know. I mean, I feel like 13 is all about what we make of things. It's like wherever you have heavily invested yourself, whatever you're building, whatever chances you are taking personally, whatever moves you're making, this is where you're going to start to see things unfold. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on here. Venus is also going to be the focal point of a yod between Neptune and Uranus. So it's like, oh, we're going to see what relationships are made of. Anyway, that's in the future. We'll see what happens. But I always get curious when I look at like the new moons to see what's going to happen, because honestly, probably one of the gnarliest new moons all year is the Taurus new moon. It's got a lot of opportunity, but it's also, I think with some of those fixed squares, it's a lot of what we end up making is really going to be determined not only by our ability to overcome obstacles and challenges and be brave, but also to be entrepreneurial, to be willing to go and do things that we love. Maybe for some people, it's going to be about, self-employment or side hustles. It's also going to be very much connected to the markets because they're in the signs that deal with financial stuff. So we'll see. So your focus here, like I said, plant those long-term goals, believe in your ability to build something lasting, and hopefully you guys can kind of navigate through some of the intensity with the Mars-Pluto stuff Friday, Saturday, Sunday that is going to be in the air. Now, I do want to touch on where this Mars-Pluto opposition is taking place for you guys. I did really focus on the T-square in my last video. So when I was talking about the new moon in Taurus, I was talking about this very specifically, being like, hey, there's this new moon, but there's also like a square that's coming in from the sun. This video, you can still take some of that. You can look at where, the sun in Taurus is kind of helping diffuse things, but I want to focus more on the Mars-Pluto opposition. As we know, like I said, you're going to see some kind of challenge or conflict with this opposition that deals with either our ego, pride, our actions, our romantic passions and desires, as well as, some kind of collective transformation. So let's see how this is going to be impacting you guys based off of your rising sign. I'm going to highlight where the drama or fights might be erupting and give you guys some insight in how to navigate it. You don't have to wait until the weekend for it to hit. Now, as a reminder, I'm a Western astrologer, so I'm not a Vedic astrologer. I'm going to be showing you guys the Mars-Pluto opposition from the perspective of the whole rising signs. Obviously, if you're anything 0 to about, let's say 5 degrees of the fixed signs, you're really going to be feeling this opposition, maybe even 7 or 8 degrees because of that new moon. So if you have any planets within those degrees of the fixed signs, you're going to be feeling the pressure, okay? Even if it's not your rising sign, if you have planets at those degrees, you're going to feel the pressure. And this is where it pays to know your chart. Listen to your rising sign to see exactly where the Mars-Pluto square off, the final the final boss battle is taking place. And heads up for those of you guys who are ruled by Mars or Pluto. So my Aries and my Scorpio risings. Aries, Mars is being obviously kind of challenged by Pluto. And Scorpio, you have got both of your planetary rulers that are in opposition to one another. So pay close attention. Let's start first with my Aries and my Aries risings. What's up, Aries? All right, well, here's the deal. Mars is the faster moving planet, okay? Mars moves faster than Pluto. So even though it's I would say it's a pretty fair fight, right? You've got an opposition, which means neither party has strength over another. You are going to see that there are some opportunities to kind of diffuse some of this through trines in your first house. So it's all going to be about how you go about expressing yourself, how you go about navigating some of these fifth house things. Now, Mars rules your first house. This is about you, your actions, your passion, and your drive. It's also going to be about intimate things, secrets, privacy, joint finances, money, investments, that kind of stuff. So you've got Mars now moving through your fifth house, which is going to be about creativity and romance. And the opposition to Pluto in your 11th house is highlighting groups, aspirations, the future, friends, online stuff. And I really feel like the theme here is like clashes over creative control. There can also be, clashes over romantic attention, who you're dating versus who somebody else is dating. Is there some drama there? Is there some drama with friends or communities? And are they challenging something about your self-expression? That can be kind of coming up, especially with Mars in your fifth house. I enjoy doing this. I love doing it. And you can have some haters and some naysayers. I really feel like the tip here this week is to just really lead with authenticity. Be yourself. Don't allow ego to get in the way. Collaborate rather than compete with other people, because you can, be on the stage, but you can also learn how to share some of that with others. So there isn't conflict, there isn't jealousy. And I feel like there can be some drama that can come up in love, okay, or group projects. Fun fact, the 11th house is also fifth from the 7th. So if you're like in a relationship where you're dating somebody casually, there can be some drama over, okay, well, are you dating other people? Like, what's going on? Am I getting all the attention? There could also be some drama going on in the lives of your children. So this is 7th from the 5th. So if you have kids that are married, right? Or if you have kids that, have children, there can be stuff going on in the relationship to their significant others, who they're dating, stuff going on with their kids. You can hear that there are friends going through crisis and you're like, I'm just trying to stay in my own lane. I'm just trying to enjoy life. I'm doing well. And you're not always hearing that from other people through the opposition. All right. Good luck, Aries. Let me know what happens. As an Aries moon, I feel all of those things. All right. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's up, Taurus? We're going to be taking a look at the Mars-Pluto opposition taking place for you. And this is in your 4th and 10th house. My goodness, Taurus. May the force be with you. You and Scorpio. I feel like, and you'll hear this in the Taurus new moon video, that I'm like, you have the opportunity to choose peace. You can be the balance maker, right? You can do that with the sun coming into the first house. You're in control. You're in control of the destiny of what's going on with your family, what's going on with your home and your living situation. You're in control of your emotions. It may not feel like that, but you are. We've got an opposition with Mars in the 4th house, Leo, versus we've got Pluto in the 10th house of career and reputation. So there's tension between family and home. There's a clash going on here, where there is some kind of clash between what's happening on the home front and some of your career ambitions. Power struggles with authority figures, so bosses, parents, things like that can kind of come up. Mars obviously rules your 7th house of marriage, relationships, spouses, and partners. It's also connected to your hidden subconscious themes. And Pluto is also connected to relationships. So where is the tension in relationships? Is it a professional relationship, a business partner, an issue with a boss while you're kind of navigating or dealing with some challenges at home? It's difficult stuff, Taurus. There's a lot of things that are coming up subconsciously from the past. And whether it's things that you haven't spoken about or things that have been bothering you or things that are connected to like some family issues, there is some tension in kind of balancing these things. But I believe that you can work through this. I believe that if you choose to say, you know what, I have a little bit more of a say in just exactly how these changes are going to go, you will actually see the power in being able to kind of move through this. Communication is going to be important. And look at the new moon as kind of like a gateway for you that's going to be coming up that's showing you, okay, I have the ability to say how these two things are going to go. And they may influence each other. Endings with work might impact where you're living. Where you're living in your family might impact how long you stay at your job. Something like that is kind of brewing. Venus direct with Saturn this week is definitely saying you have friends in your back pocket you can call who can give you some good advice. Focus on group collaborations, group kind of commitments, and also your future goals. Good luck. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. What's up, Gemini? You're going to see this Mars-Pluto opposition taking place in your 3rd and in your 9th house. And for you guys, this is interesting because, it's a house that you're kind of familiar with being a Gemini rising. This is about communication. All right. So Mars is now in your 3rd house. It's going to oppose out of 3. So it's very much about communication. Could be trips, could be learning, could be vehicles, could be siblings. Mars will be opposing Pluto in the 9th house, which is going to be about teachers. It could be about legal matters, your beliefs, even travel or higher education. Now, this opposition is tense, but if you have early degrees of Gemini, sun, moon, or rising, especially the first 5 degrees, it's going to sextile your ascendant sun or moon, and Pluto is also trining. So you can actually move through some of this stuff, I think, a little bit easier than some of the other signs. Now, Mars rules your health, habits, routine, coworkers, and your health, and it's also connected to your 11th house of goals, friendships, as well as networking. So it looks like there's some challenges in communication this week, especially revolving around work or travel. Managing your schedule might feel like a little complex or challenging. I do think that you might see some arguments over ideas or principles. That might be a theme that comes up. Siblings or neighbors might push your buttons a little bit. There might be some like critical timelines that you're trying to meet. I would just say really listen before reacting. You have to kind of just accept going into this that there's going to be some philosophical differences that you're going to have with other people. Align your words with higher values. I think that is like the key here. And a lot of this can also be about just changes to schedules, changes to traveling as well, and where that's kind of coming up and putting some pressure on you, somehow connected to either work or your health. Watch for heated debates or these travel disruptions. Good luck, Gemini. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. What's up, Cancer? You're going to be doing this Mars-Pluto opposition in your 2nd and your 8th house. Now, 2nd house, personal values, possessions, and money. 8th house, taxes, inheritances, other people's money, insurance, things kind of connected to stuff that's more emotional, kind of private in nature. And Mars is connecting to your work, your career, your authority, as well as creativity and self-expression, dating, or children. So you're going to see this balancing act between Mars and Pluto in houses that are very financial, Cancer. I'm sure you know this. You've been feeling it throughout the Mars retrograde. Really, I feel like this could manifest as fights over money. Fights over money, investments, or personal value, and power dynamics in intimate relationships can also be coming up as well. So committed relationships, partnership spouses, dealing with things like insurance or, money owed. So think like spousal support, child support. There could be some kind of tension between you and another person about what is owed to you or whether or not you feel valued, whether or not you feel chosen. We can find also that there can be some back and forth about financial matters relating to work. Hey, you know what? I haven't been paid as much as I want to be paid. I want a raise, or I want better benefits. in this back and forth dance that you've been doing as to whether or not you're going to find a new position or find a new job that's going to give you exactly what you need. Stand firm in your worth, okay? That's my advice. Avoid any manipulative financial dealings. Be careful with overspending because Pluto in the 8th house is going to be some very interesting, I think interest rates or some very tempting things where you want to buy something very quickly, but it can come with some strings attached. Watch for disputes over debts or inheritances. So if you're kind of dealing with that right now, or if you're dealing with a back and forth over a settlement, if you're dealing with a back and forth over, selling a business, buying a business, launching your own thing, just be mindful of all of the money in and money out right now. Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. What's up, Leo? All eyes are on you. You're going to cause a scene. You guys will have to let me know. So Mars is moving through your sign, Leo. It's coming into your first house of self, and it's making an opposition to Pluto this week. So I recommend thinking back to what was going on at the beginning of January 2025. Likely the story goes something like this. You have been reevaluating or reassessing where you are going, right? Where you want to travel, where you want to study, what you want to learn, who you want to be, how you want to kind of portray yourself out in the world. And there's been some friction with another person. So I don't know if it's been a partner who's been reluctant to change or going through a crisis, maybe a therapist who you're not aligning with, maybe a change with one of your friends, or just with your community in general, like how people are seeing you. And maybe you're feeling like you've been going into your cocoon phase. These oppositions have been fierce because it kind of says where you're kind of reassessing how you show up for yourself, and you're not responding to, other people's crisis or kind of drama, right? Anyway, Mars is connecting to your home and your family or your living situation, as is Pluto, and it's also connecting to your 9th house of your beliefs, travel, and what you're learning, the bigger kind of meaning and purpose of life. So when we see oppositions taking place in the angular houses, 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th, like all of the fixed signs are having, life gets very loud, and this can feel like a defining moment where there is a turning point going on in a relationship. Maybe there's been some personal pride clashes with partners' demands. Maybe relationships have felt like a battleground. I really feel like the tip here is to balance your self-assertion with compromise and avoid dominating other people, but also avoid letting other people manipulate and control you, because Mars is very strong in your 1st house. Some people are not going to be very kind with their words, or they're going to be very difficult in how they communicate. Do not fight fire with fire. Avoid, I think, any ego-driven arguments. This can be with clients, partners, romantic relationships. And on the topic of the new moon in your 10th house, obviously you're ruled by the sun, squaring this, it's about whether or not you can show up and be a leader and keep the peace when other people aren't playing so fair. That's really the question. So I hope you guys navigate this well and you stand up for yourselves, but also remember that a lot of eyes are on you right now with Mars and Pluto in your 1st and 7th and the sun in the 10th. If you are getting into squabbles, if you're getting into online debates, if there are back and forths, it is going to be very, very public. So just think about that before you cause a scene. Let me know what happens, Leo. You got we've got Virgo. Hello, we've got Virgo and Virgo rising. What's up, Virgo? You're doing this Mars-Pluto opposition in Leo and Aquarius in your 12th and 6th houses. Virgo, so for you, Mars is connected to your mind, communication, traveling, short distance trips, siblings, contracts, learning. It's also connected to your 8th house, which is a little bit more private, hidden. This can also be about joint finances, money, and also intimacy. So, Mars in the 12th house, a pretty common signature of like dealing with repressed anger, frustration, feeling blocked, right? Or feeling maybe a little burnt out, feeling a little exhausted. That can happen when Mars is in the 12th house. So the 12th house deals with more, it can be losses. It can also be connecting to, spiritual practices, foreign lands, things that are kind of hidden or subconscious. But this is more kind of like mental health, right? Spiritual health. Versus the 6th house, which is more connected to your routines, your habits. Are you eating your vegetables, going to the gym? Are you going through your routine? Are you being productive? So we've got tension between subconscious secrets, Mars in the 12th, versus your work and health. So I think, hidden fears or hidden enemies can surface this week, and it can be in your work. So it can be with like a coworker or somebody that's like in your office space, or it can be your health routines. Control issues with coworkers can definitely come up and you feel like you just kind of want to run and hide, or you're feeling burnt out. I do feel like this is about addressing buried anger. And this is also about prioritizing self-care so you're not feeling burnt out and kind of like under the weather and kind of run into the ground. Watch for passive-aggressive workplace drama, because I do think it's going to happen. You can avoid it if you know how to communicate. This is also about really realizing and recognizing that a lot of this Mars stuff is tied to money, expenses, spending, budgeting. So there can be stuff that's kind of coming up there where people are a little tense about some of these topics at work. If you work in like the death industry, if you work in investments, financing, insurance, or anything like that, you're definitely going to see that. There can be some tension about money in and money out, dealing with other people. Okay. Good luck, guys. Take care of your health with some of these oppositions too, please. We've got Libra and Libra rising. What's up, Libra? You're going to be doing the Mars-Pluto opposition taking place in your natal 11th and 5th house. And similar to that of Gemini, Libra, you've got Mars sextiling your ascendant. You've got Pluto trining your ascendant, Sun, Moon, or rising if you're about the first 5 degrees. So you can work with this. You can help neutralize some of this with some of the sextiles and trines. All right, so Libra, Mars is moving through the house that deals with your friends, your goals, also your allies, your networks, your audience online. This can also be about socializing, parties, gatherings, and get-togethers. And it's opposing Pluto in the 5th house, which is more about your creativity, your love life, your self-expression, your joy, your children, your romantic partner. So there's tension. There's some kind of group dynamic clash when it comes to what other people want versus what makes you happy. So friends might challenge your creative or your romantic choices. Obviously, Mars is connecting to relationships. It can also be about airing some things out with, friends that you have, if you've had some friendship drama. It can also mean that friends are being very vocal about your relationship dynamics, or vice versa. You could be talking to them about that as well if you're going through some challenges in your love life, if you're a single Libra. Mars is also connected to money and value. So I do think that there can be this sense of like tension where, friends might be saying to you, I'm having so many issues going on with my love life. I'm having issues with my kids. There's stuff going on with my money, and you're like, oh my God, you're like, do I resonate with this? Or is this kind of like impacting me personally? There can also be tension if you have children in their relationships or with their friendships. That can be kind of coming up with this opposition as well. I do think that other people are going to be very maybe opinionated about, what you should or should not be doing to make you happy. And so people will be like, well, just leave your boyfriend, or just make this change, or, just do this or do that. And you're going to be like, oh, people are being kind of aggressive here. So my advice, Libra, is stay true to your passions. Focus on your values. Avoid drama like the plague. Don't allow it to kind of suck you in. Misery loves company this week. Seek allies who support your vision, and watch for conflicts in social circles, and avoid love triangles, because a lot of Libra risings have been experiencing this with the square to the sun. A lot of Libra risings are realizing or recognizing there's someone they have to let go. Who is that someone? Is it a friend? Is it a partner? Is it a creative collaborator? And how is it going to make you feel if you let them go? And also, what is it going to cost you, Libra? That is the question. Good luck. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. What's up, Scorpio? I'm sure a lot of Aquarius and Leo risings will argue this with me, but I would say for a Scorpio rising horoscope, especially if you're early Scorpio rising, like the first, let's say 0 to 8 or 9 degrees, this is a quite intense transit. So hang in there. It will get better. I know that this has been kind of a back and forth thing for a long time for you guys. The truth is that it's difficult because you have got both of your chart rulers, Mars and Pluto, that are not, they're not in alignment with each other. Okay. They're facing off. And usually we want to see them working in a sextile and a trine. We don't want to see a hard square or an opposition, because it means that you're being pulled in two completely different directions, and it feels disjointed. So you are Mars and Pluto. So there is part of you, Scorpio, that is almost with the Mars retrograde back in your 10th, being drugged back into a situation, back to work, back to an old job. You're being called back. You're being asked to reassess, what your purpose is, what you can do out in the world, get out there, and also just be your competitive, kind of authentic self. And then there's part of you that's like, no, I actually really want to hide, or I want to focus more on my private life, my home life. I need to be doing things that are going to be, changing the foundation of my inner world. With this opposition, career ambitions trigger family tension. So things like relocating for work, working too much, focusing on being in the workplace. And that's, kind of not setting well with some of your family's goals, or a home renovation, or there's some, crisis that's going on with the family. And it feels like you have to kind of juggle both things. So power struggles with authority figures or parents can come up. The theme here is balancing your professional drive with home harmony and avoiding ultimatums. Watch for public versus private life conflicts. Where this is also a little bit more difficult for Scorpio risings is that the sun has been coming into the 7th house, which in many cases, you will see is kind of like, oh, it's relationship oriented. For some of you, it can mean there's a counselor, there's a therapist, there's a partner or a spouse that comes in and says like, hey, we got to find the balance between what we're doing with these two things. But it could also mean that somebody shows up that challenges you in a public arena. Or it can mean that somebody's challenging you in a relationship, or they're saying, you got to pick a lane. Is it going to be about you focusing on your career, or, are you going to be moving in with me, or are you going to be prioritizing your family? What's it going to be? So watch for the ultimatums. They can come up. But Scorpio, I actually really feel like for a lot of you guys, the positive here is that this new moon means that whether it's a therapist, a new counselor, a friend, an accountant, even somebody who handles your finances, they can help you work through some of these challenges. So you feel like you can have the change on the home front, and you can also have the dynamic, things that are going on in your career as well. So be open to new people who can come in to help you kind of find that balance. Good luck. We've got Sag and Sag rising. What's up, Sag? You're going to be doing this Mars-Pluto opposition in your 9th and 3rd houses. All right, so similar for you guys, you have some sextiles and some trines here, so it can be a little bit easier for you to navigate, so you're not getting stuck in the opposition. But you have got the oppositions happening in houses that deal with our philosophy, communication, travel, learning, anything to do with your expansion of your mind and your belief systems. So Mars rules your subconscious. It's also about foreign lands, hidden enemies, challenges, self-undoing, and it's also connected to creativity, self-expression, children, dating, and romance. And it's in opposition to Pluto, which is also connected to your 12th house. I'm thinking for some of you guys, this can materialize as kind of like clashes over, ideology. There could be some turning points in travel plans or crisis revolving around traveling, suddenly traveling, having a delay in your travels, miscommunications with locals as well as with siblings. And this is not the time to be instigating any legal matters, okay? So any legal conflicts or anything like that, be very careful with that taking place. I feel like Pluto in your 3rd house is teaching you how to communicate in a powerful way. And this is about really defending your truth calmly, clarifying your intentions in conversations. Jupiter, your chart lord, is not really doing anything in the midst of this. It's not really helping you. I think what you're going to want to be really looking at is, okay, have I been wanting to or trying to throughout this Mars retrograde get out of town, book a flight somewhere, go back to school, get accepted to a college? Have I had a goal that, I'm trying to just go away from here and kind of get away from, some of this intensity in my local environment? Or, am I not seeing eye to eye with my sibling? Am I having some kind of clash with a neighbor? Any of these things could be kind of coming up. And I think in this case, if you have been having delays with some of these things, specifically education and travel, now you can see after the opposition, things can kind of begin to move forward. Obviously, scheduling issues and things kind of come up because you're seeing squares to the sun. So whether it's, you have a lot of work on your plate, your schedule's booked out, maybe it's like some health issues or some other things that are coming up with pets that's inhibiting you from being able to fully kind of fly. I think you're going to kind of work through this and you're going to have opportunities to start feeling like you can be traveling again over the summer. But, arguments over principles or, logistics kind of coming up, yes, that could happen. But the key here is just to stay calm under pressure and realize that other people are going to be a little intense and outspoken. Keep your cool. Good luck. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys are going to experience Mars and Pluto in opposition to one another in your 2nd and 8th house. So similar to Cancer, this is very financial for you, my Capricorns. Mars is connected to your home, family, property, and estates. It's also directly connected to your goals, groups, and other people. Pluto is connected to this house as well. So to see Mars and Pluto in opposition, it tells me that there is some kind of a back and forth going on over money, shared resources, or intimacy versus your personal finances, your values, your money in the bank. What do other people want versus what you have? Are you willing to share it? What is your portion to pay? Definitely, I could see some fights over joint resources or finances, needing to be more emotionally vulnerable, and tension around personal versus shared values. So things like inheritance, taxes, investments, 401ks, settlements, especially if you're going through something that's over like a property or a dispute or something kind of connected to like property taxes or maybe expenses relating to having built a house, what that's costing you versus what you were told it was going to, actually be. Those issues can be coming up. And I would say now is the time to be very transparent about money and what your goals are and what you're hoping to achieve and what needs to be paid off or paid down or what needs to be settled when it comes to a home, family, or group dynamic. I definitely recommend, like I said, being transparent and also protect your emotional boundaries, because Mars in the 8th house can be about getting kind of emotionally riled up and like feeling like you don't have security or stability. And watch for power struggles in partnerships or investments, as that can definitely be a theme. Pluto in your 2nd house is about holding the purse strings, the wealth, and the power and the control. And Mars in the 8th house is about other people being like, okay, I want that, or this is what I'm owed. So I'm wondering who the dispute is with, or maybe you can't see eye to eye about how much you want to spend on buying a new home or how much somebody is going to be contributing or paying for rent. These kind of things can be kind of coming up. But I'm pleased to say once the opposition is over, you're going to see whatever has been kind of going down is now going to finalize. And then you're going to see Saturn, your chart ruler, actually go into your 4th house. So I think a lot of you guys are renovating houses, preparing to sell them, selling them, splitting, that with another person. Maybe you're dealing with a family estate matter. But I think these things are actually going to get wrapped up pretty soon. So let me know how it goes for you guys. I'm sending you lots of good thoughts, and you'll have to let me know what happens. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. What's up, Aquarius? The rebels with a cause. Mars in your 7th house, Leo, in opposition to Pluto in your sign in the 1st house. Well, Mars is going through the 7th house, which is about partnerships. And whether this is your relationship to a boyfriend, girlfriend, a therapist, a business partner, a spouse. This can also be a relationship to a child, Leo, somebody who's younger than you. Their drive, devotion, passion, and action in opposition to you and the life that you are changing, this new person you are becoming, you're evolving, right? Pluto. So Mars is going to deal with communication, contracts, negotiations, siblings, and neighbors. So you might be going back and forth with one of these people, or you're going back and forth in a relationship about one of these matters. And it's in opposition to Pluto, which is about your career and your authority. So this is pretty textbook, power struggles here, where other people are challenging your own personal self-identity, Pluto in the 1st. This is about partners challenging your sense of authority, but also your individuality. Relationships can feel either controlling or they can feel transformative. And you're going to see some heat going on with other people. And it's all going to be about seeing the changes within yourself and how you're responding to their recklessness or their action or their passion or their dynamic kind of behavior differently. It can be a little challenging for relationships with people professionally as well, as both Mars and Pluto are connected to your 10th house. So it can be that you're going through a very public change in, a business partnership or who you're working for or who you're working with. I do feel like, it's about asserting your independence without burning bridges, and seeking mutual growth if growth is possible. Now, I know the new moon coming into your 4th house is squaring that. So it's saying that maybe the way to find a solution is a new kind of home base, or it's about, a sit down with the family, or a reassessment of, the relationship with certain family members, or plans for moving or something like that. Maybe it's getting a bigger home. Maybe it's taking space. So watch for intense relationship dynamics. I do feel like this is the finale. So you guys are going to have to think back to what's been happening over the last couple of months. The truth is with Pluto in your 1st house, when you go through a change, this is how partners and other people are responding and reacting to that change. So don't let other people kind of get your goat this week. Good luck. We've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You guys are going to be experiencing the Mars-Pluto opposition in your 12th and 6th house. So similar to Virgo, this is very much finding that balance and that dynamic between work, health, habits, and routine with Mars in the 6th house. Stuff you got to get done, your to-do list, running around, errands, taking care of your health, and how that is either helping or hindering you emotionally, spiritually, or psychologically with Pluto in the 12th house. So workplace stress with Mars in the 6th house, overworking, doing too much, stressful schedule, conflict with coworkers can definitely trigger fears, right? With the opposition of Pluto. Oh, am I going to be able to stay at this job forever? Oh, am I going to be able to handle this? We can also see that there can be health issues that are triggering fears as well. That's like, oh my God, is something wrong? And you can kind of spaz and kind of freak yourself out a little bit. There can be hidden tensions that can be surfacing. Both Mars and Pluto are connected to your 9th house of traveling, your philosophy, legal matters, education, and learning, as well as the 2nd house of money and resources. So some of you guys might be kind of going, what is it going to cost me to be able to go and check in with the doctor? Am I still going to be able to travel if I get sick? That kind of stuff. And I would say be careful here because, whenever you have oppositions in the 6th and the 12th house axis, you can see that there can be health stuff that can kind of come up. This is about really addressing your work-life balance and using mindfulness really to process your emotions. Watching for burnout or subconscious sabotage can definitely happen. And I would say that the way through this is communication, journaling, movement, writing. That square from your 3rd house is really saying that you have to be able to communicate and express your concerns so you don't have tension that's impacting your health or friction with somebody at work. Move through it rather than being afraid to have certain conversations or tackle some of these issues. Okay? Hopefully that's helpful for you, Pisces. So that's pretty much everything in a nutshell for this week, for April 20th through the 27th. Like I said, guys, it is an intense cosmic pressure cooker. This is the final opposition. So it's really a call to transform our power and kind of move from struggles to empowerment. Use that new moon to really kind of ground you out and focus on building something with some sense of unwavering belief. For each sign, really the key here is to channel this intensity into growth and avoid the ego traps and really trust the process of what is unfolding with some of the other triple conjunctions in Pisces. I think it can be really eye-opening this week. That's the feeling that I'm kind of getting looking at this. And as we get into May, it's a completely different ballgame. You guys will see that with the horoscopes pretty soon. But let me know, how are you guys feeling with this intensity? How are you channeling it? What have your experiences been in November of 2024 and January of 2025 with some of these oppositions? Can you trace, that back to some tension, some meltdowns, some conflict? I know I can. So you guys will have to let me know. Leave me your comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Click the bell button so you get alerts as to when I'm here. I'm here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, trying to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. Enjoy the week. May the force be with all of you guys. I hope you enjoy your Sunday. I will catch you guys back here on Tuesday. Take care.